From a radio studio on Long Island, New York, come two die-hard fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else in their distorted minds, it's Brando and Scotto.
'Cause you know what the fuck you are!
And this is Appetite for Distortion.
Try it again!
Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando. With me is Scotto, Ian. What's going on, buddy?
Yes, sir. Ian Scotto. But as we said, Brando and Scotto just sounds
It sounds better. The O's.
Yeah, can I just say, man, I have not been this excited for just any new project, and I really don't know how long, because like this is something you and I talk about all the time, and that we'll be able to just discuss, I think, episode, because you've probably got
just become best friends. This is how we became friends.
Well, the thing is this too. When I was telling people the concept for this show, they're like, "Can you really talk about Guns N' Roses that much?" And it's like, yes, you can.
Yeah, no, we can, and that's exactly what this is. This is going to be all things Guns N' Roses, just from our fandom, our fanboy nim, is it whatever, to just the members, of course, through the history, through the entire catalog of the members, every other bands they've affected, the culture that they've affected. I think they're one of those bands, and I'll say at the beginning of this podcast, I don't think this is going to be a one-off. We haven't decided. This is going to continue. But Ozzy Osbourne in the Guns N' Roses Behind the Music, when they used to have those, said they could have been the next Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And it kind of, in a way, breaks my heart that they did, obviously, break up, and we don't have more music from them. And who knows, we'll get into that. If they destroyed rock and roll from breaking up, who knows why rock and roll is the way it is, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
But a little bit about ourselves, if you don't know who we are. My name is Brandon, whatever. Brando on the radio. I guess that's what it just sounded better than Brandon Weissler, Jewish kid on the radio. I've been in radio for about over a decade, I think.
Dude, same here. It's a decade.
I know.
It's crazy.
I feel so. I've been finding gray hairs in my beard. I plucked those sons of bitches out. But right now, we're actually in the studio, so thank you to my program director at 102.3 WBAB on Long Island. So we're using the studio there, although the thoughts and views expressed here at Appetite for Distortion are not necessarily those expressed by Cox Media, COX. Relax. So yeah, I'm an on-air DJ at WBAB. I also work at iHeartMedia in New York City. Of course, once again, the views and opinions.
Do you really have to go through this every time?
Who knows? I mean, people get fired over tweets.
We could curse on this show, so
we can. Let's.
Okay.
I'm going to try not to. I'm going to be civilized. I'm going to hold my microphone up with the pinky.
Axel says, "Do you know where the fuck you are on the intro?"
He's Axl Rose. But we met Ian and I at Sirius XM, and that's where Ian is. Scotto is at the moment.
Yeah.
So what do you do for Sirius?
I produce Senator Bill Bradley's show, work on Andrew Wilkow's show, but most people listening to this that know me probably know me from Soft Rep Radio with Navy SEAL sniper instructor Brandon Webb, Army Ranger and Green Beret Jack Murphy. So that's what I've been doing, the Soft Rep podcast, which is just continuing to grow. Top 50 on iTunes, which is really awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and because everybody has a fucking podcast.
Is there going to be competitive between Appetite for Distortion and Soft Prep at some point?
It's so different. It's so ridiculously different. Talking special operations military.
Those Marines
and
are probably listening to Welcome in the Jungle in the chopper.
Well, like Mike Ritland, who's a Navy SEAL and K-9 instructor, he loves Guns N' Roses, loves metal. Even though GNR's not really metal, but like he loves rock and heavy music.
Sure.
So yeah, there's definitely honestly, those guys are they're trained killers if they're in combat, and that's kind of what you want to listen to when you're killing terrorists.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, if I wasn't a 5'6" weakling Jew, I would want to kill people too, and that's how that's Guns N' Roses. I get that feeling. We'll talk about that, why we love this band so much. Listen to Axl, the real power. He's like fight somebody. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm in therapy. I'm on medication. My anger is under control, but Axl and Guns N' Roses help get that out. And when you brought this to my attention, it's funny because we met at Sirius.
Yeah. We met at a Guns N' Roses show, honestly.
We knew each other from Sirius, but we met at a Guns N' Roses. Oh, yeah, because
I don't think I ever actually talked to you until we went to a Roseland Guns N' Roses
Roseland show, right.
Yeah, so technically, that our connection is Guns N' Roses,
so
really more so than anything.
Then how did we start frolicking through the fields with our Ninja Turtle connection also?
With our what? Ninja Turtle? Because you always post, on Instagram your Ninja Turtle stuff. I mean, I'm back on my iPhone.
You have the shells. Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's so funny. So, yeah, we hit it off. And then we ended up finding out that we both went to Hofstra, and we both did WRHU radio.
Yeah, I was also going to say that that article that came out, I think it was a couple years ago, or it might have been a year ago, that Axl came out late on stage because he was watching Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, Ninja Turtle 2. So I hope that's real. That's too good to be true.
It's awesome, though, because it's all that era. And, I know I want to focus more on the reunion and all that than anything.
Each episode we're going to have a
focus.
A nucleus of it.
Yeah,
but
the one thing I was going to say is, if you want proof that just the 80s, late 80s, early 90s was just such a better time than now in terms of entertainment, they're remaking Ninja Turtles. As you just said, there's a new Ninja Turtles cartoon.
The Michael Bay version, but the cartoon is sick.
Where you have Gilbert Gottfried and Roseanne Barr doing voices.
Seth Green is doing Leonardo's voice. Seth Green.
Okay, and then what is going to be the highest grossing, without a doubt, rock and roll tour of the summer of 2016? Okay, I don't think Imagine Dragons could duplicate that. I'm sorry, they can't.
I know, and when I see Coldplay, when I was getting tickets for Guns N' Roses on the Ticketmaster, and we're both on our phones trying to say, what did you get? What did you get?
Yeah.
And I say, hey, do you want it, while you're waiting for this, do you want to get Coldplay? I guess could they sell out MetLife? I mean...
But you know what's funny is they seem like a new band to us, but even they're old. They were out when I was in high school, and I'm, long separated from that, so... what is the new band? I guess you could say Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, but to me, I don't even know they're considered, for me, I mean, I know they're in alt rock stations, but I hear them on just top 40. They're one of those crossover bands, and it's very hard to be just a popular rock band. I thought, and I don't want to mean any disrespect, I thought it was going to be Hailstorm. And Hailstorm is big.
Yeah.
But I thought they were going to be one of those names that's going to be everywhere. Like Lizzie Hale is going to be everywhere. She's going to be the new Gwen Stefani. Maybe. Yeah, but they also crossed over.
Yeah,
and then it's really just her band, Haley Williams. It's just her band. It's so weird, and that's why now it's such a special time with this reunion. This was never going to happen. The hell was it when Hell Freezes Over tour?
Yeah.
Or something not in this lifetime. Hell Freezes Over was the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles, and this is not because Axl said to TMZ, are you ever going to reunite with Slash? Not in this lifetime.
Not in this lifetime. Yeah. And it happened. I mean, it's happening. It's real.
So getting into our main topic then, honestly, did you, as someone who followed the band Guns N' Roses when it was no longer Slash, Duff for many years, did you think this was ever going to happen?
No, because we should also establish our ages, because that's important too. Because, of course, Appetite for Destruction came out in 1987. I was born in 83.
I was born in 86.
Yeah, so I wasn't, a 4-year-old saying, welcome to the channel, poop my pants. But I got into them later in life, and they were already broken up.
Well, I could say this, though. I still remember when November Rain and all that stuff was in heavy rotation on MTV. I still remember being able to turn on MTV and seeing November Rain regularly.
They stood the test of time, even though that they broke up, and I think that's what makes them so important, that they never went away, especially since Axl went away. He was Howard Hughes. No one saw him. That was the amazing thing, and this is whatever. We'll kick off the show with this kind of story for myself. I'm only damaging myself. Back in 2002, the VMAs. Remember, there were some rumblings. They were going to have some big act at the end. You had no idea, and just go back a couple steps. Maybe Axl did some shows in Brazil, Rock in Rio. Nothing. I think that song "Oh My God" came out. It was on the End of Days soundtrack with Schwarzenegger.
Was that prior to the MTV?
That was prior, and that's a sick song. But
I love that song.
It was more industrial. It wasn't Guns N' Roses, even though I thought it was great. So my girlfriend at the time were at my mom's house, because I wasn't old enough to live by myself yet, and we have it on in the background, whatever, and we're fooling around, and then Jimmy Fallon was the host. And he's like,
MTV has asked this next band to perform at the VMAs for like the past 4 years. Well, tonight, not only did they show up, they're even taking requests. I feel kind of weird introducing like one of my favorite bands of all time. I just wanted to say, please, it's been great hosting the VMAs here in New York City. This is the best city in the world. And if anyone lives here, you know how powerful it is and how electric and how energetic and the greatest city in the world. For those of you who don't live in New York, welcome to the jungle. Ladies and gentlemen, Guns
N' Roses! And my girl gets off of me. And I'm okay with it. We are like, what is happening? And then the curtains go up, and you see that's Axl. He's wearing a Jerry Rice black Raiders jersey. He's got the cornrows. He's got that what do you call it, like the bucket caps? Not bucket head, but the bucket caps, the black bucket cap. He's wearing baggy leather jeans. Yeah. Who's
this guy with a bucket on his head?
Oh, is that Slash's new look? Like, what is going on? And this other guy his head is shaved other than the sides and the back of his head. And that's not, like, I don't recognize anybody in the band, and they go into Welcome to the Jungle. But he starts off with that scream, and we're both glued. We're putting our clothes back on. We're both glued because this is a monumentous occasion. And then he starts singing Welcome to the Jungle. I'm like, Guns N' Roses is back. What is this? What is going on? And this is really before the time of Twitter. Facebook was really not what it is today.
I don't think, no, there was no Facebook. Facebook was 2004 because it was the first year I went to college.
I remember. Well, Facebook for a while was just you can get into it when you had an edu pass.
Yeah, but
email.
that was 04.
Was it 04?
So,
then it was just a MySpace. You know,
I don't even think there was MySpace, dude.
No, it has to be because, or if anything, there was LiveJournal because that's how I met certain friends and stuff.
Okay,
so
that's possible.
I was emo. I write out my feelings in LiveJournal, and that's how I actually met some people. I had another girlfriend from Canada. Just to skip ahead, I saw Guns N' Roses in Canada, where the Suicide Girls and Sebastian Bach opened, and we met. I met a girl from Ottawa because I had Axl Rose as one of my interests on my page, and we became friends and lovers after that. So, yeah, whatever. She's married now. It's fine. So, yeah, I never a long-winded way to go to your original question. Yeah. I never thought it was going to happen. Once I'm like, okay, this is Guns N' Roses, but it's not. It's Axl.
I'll be honest. I was at the point, because I was a fan just like you of what we refer to now as new GNR. Which is, Axl with Dizzy Reed.
Even though Dizzy has been in there since the usual.
That's what I'm saying, and a bunch of other guys.
And no disrespect to him, the mass majority doesn't care.
No disrespect really to any of the members because I love all the incarnations.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I will say this, man. I remember seeing Guns N' Roses at the Izod Center. This was the second show I ever saw of theirs. Because I didn't get to see the original lineup or
neither did I. We should also
guys.
establish that. I never saw them.
And I remember this girl saying how much she loved Slash, and we were on the floor. And I feel this is heresy to even say this, but she's talking about, she's like, oh, I wish Slash was here. And I'm in the studio right now wearing a Slash shirt.
Yeah, you are.
But I remember saying, I was like, fuck Slash. I'm just excited to see Guns N' Roses. Now, looking back, dude, I love Slash. I'm a huge fan of everybody who's been in the band, but I think at that time, it was just accepting this is what Guns N' Roses is. The guys are not getting back together, and you could either go see Slash solo or you could see this.
And I like Slash.
And I love Slash. So if Slash ever happens to hear this, I'm a huge fan. So I feel like an asshole saying that. So it's just...
It's how you felt in the moment. It's okay.
In the moment, it was just like, I'm going to see this current GNR, and I don't want to complain that these guys aren't here.
You had to pick sides. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that because I liked Slash's Snake Pit. I loved Velvet Revolver.
Velvet Revolver was great. For me, it's just... Personally, there's nothing that Slash has ever done or the other guys have ever done that was on the level of Chinese Democracy for me, which I loved. And there's people listening to this that hate that album and they think it's terrible. I absolutely love that album, start to finish. So.
It took me 3 listens because there was such a buildup. And I remember being on the My GNR forum, getting all the leaks. The IRS leak,
I remember that
the twat leak.
And IRS sounded slightly different than it does now.
Yeah. And even there was a time when they added something different to the beginning and the end of it.
You know who leaked one of those songs, right?
Who's that?
Mike Piazza.
Oh yes, Mike P. I'm a Yankee fan, but I like Mike P.
Yeah, well, he loves GNR.
Yeah, he's a metalhead.
Yeah,
finally getting.
But he loves Guns N' Roses. So, yeah.
I think he was at that 2002 show because I remember him being on the air with Eddie Trunk talking about it or something.
And he had we're getting sidetracked so much.
Well,
but he
it's
had
all Guns N' Roses.
He had this story about how he was with Eddie Trunk, and this was in the era where Axl was wearing jerseys all the time.
Yeah.
So Axl would come out on stage, he's wearing a Derek Jeter jersey, and then he's wearing like some Knicks jersey and some Rangers jersey.
Sure.
And Piazza got to meet him backstage with Trunk, and he was like, dude, where's the Mets Piazza jersey? He's like, I don't see Derek Jeter, going to MSG to see you.
Yeah, I remember
What
that.
the hell, man?
That's I would have said the same thing. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And most people were like, what did Axl say? Was he a dick? And I think I always got into that where Axl, I never met him. I could retire the next day if I ever meet Axl. That's like, for me, I'm only saying this facetiously, no homo, because that's such a stupid thing to say. But I love Axl. He, as far as rock stars, to me, he is the zenith of songwriting, how you're supposed to be on stage, everything. But I never met him, so I don't know what he was like behind the scenes. So it was hard for me to really pick sides. I know where my ears went. I know what I emotionally identified with. I identified with the songwriting. I identified with his growl. So when the new GNR happened, I was on board.
Yeah.
All my friends weren't. I kind of had it was like pulling teeth to get them to go to the new GNR shows.
And when you would say, I'm going to see Guns N' Roses every
Eye
time,
rolls.
it's not Guns N' Roses, it's,
I know.
Axl and
It's like-
Friends. Or I got to work with Dee Snider, back in the day, early when I worked in radio. He always called them Rose and Roses. So there's been a million different names, but
I mean, I get
to
it.
me, it was I was very fine accepting that this is what it was and that it was not getting back together again. Now, if this is all right, fast forwarding ahead a little bit, there started to be two different camps, basically. Velvet Revolver broke up, and then I remember, and we could probably find this somewhere, they asked Duff about Velvet Revolver breaking up, and he was complaining about how tough it was to work with Scott Weiland. Rest in peace, of course.
Sure.
And, someone in the paparazzi or something asked Duff, who was harder to work with?
Oh, this was Matt Sorum, they asked.
It was Sorum? Okay.
Yeah, TMZ
I haven't
Sorum.
seen this in so long. So,
Yeah, it was Matt
who was
Sorum.
harder to work with? And he's like, well, at least there wasn't an empty seat in the house with Axl. Something of that nature. So the thing is, post Velvet Revolver, there were kind of two camps. And you could even see this with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance. There was Slash, of course, Matt Sorum, Steven Adler, the two drummers. These guys all played together at some point. And then, and there's a reason I'm leaving one guy out, then in the other camp, you had Axl, Dizzy Reed, and you even, I would say, had Izzy Stradlin. Even though he was no longer performing, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, and I'm sure many will if we don't know. I don't think Izzy ever performed with Slash.
Not that I recall.
So he was every now and again showing up on stage for concerts with Axl.
Right.
And then the one guy who got along with all camps was Duff McKagan.
Correct.
So that it all started to come together when you started to see, okay, Duff is filling in for Tommy Stinson on bass with Guns N' Roses. But the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance, it was like, it doesn't look like this is going to happen, that these guys are going to get back together.
Yeah, those rumors right before, like, oh, they're all going to be there. I'm getting pumped up for it.
And there were a million different things with management coming out, and then something happened. It all came together.
Axl wrote that War and Peace reason as to why he's not going to be there, and that was such a gut check. I think that was when, I never really checked out of the Axl camp, but that was like, I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
Where it was just this long, SAT essay, and he's a very good writer, by the way.
Yeah.
Axl. Of just why he's just not going to be a part of this. And he appreciates it, but he can't be associated. He has a new thing going, and it was such a gut check. I think it was because like that hot girl in high school. It's like until she rejects you, there's always that hope.
Yeah.
I had that hope until, damn it, damn it.
So then, what happened? Where all of us kind of collectively, as fans and the whole world, were like, this really may happen. I could tell you where I was. Last summer, I was in Colorado. I went to go see my New York Mets play, and I also went to go see Deftones and Incubus at Red Rocks.
Nice.
Always wanted to visit Red Rocks. I went by myself, and I'm on my iPhone, and I remember seeing the article that came up with the video. Slash is now talking to Axl again.
Yeah.
And that's
I
what
was
it
like, what?
And they're
like Chris
open
from
about
Family
this
Guy.
because there were talks about it, but that's when something really struck
But
a
that
nerve.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because when there was that, when it was really interesting where Axl by chance ran into Duff at a hotel. I think because Duff's Loaded was playing somewhere in the area, and as was Guns N' Roses, and they were on the same floor. And I think one of them knocked on the other one's door to tell them to turn down their music or something like that. And they're like, "Oh,
That's crazy to
hey," and it was cool, And I think that might have been that first baby step, because like you said, Duff is like Finland, or like Canada. Nobody has a problem with them. He's just cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's just what. But it's like one of those until it happens. The same thing with Van Halen. It's just so many rumors. That's what it is. It's just so many years of rumors and nothing happening. So, and even now, when they became friends. Okay, it was I think Nikki Sixx coined it, the worst kept secret in Hollywood that Guns N' Roses is going to reunite. I had so many friends, my buddy who has both guns tattooed on his shoulder blades. He's like, until it happens, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And until that April 1st show at the Troubadour, and even me, I'm like, oh my God, they're on stage together.
Yeah.
Like, is this really this is happening?
Well, after that article came out, I don't want to say who he is, because he told me, he was like, this would ruin my credibility if you tell anybody at the time, and hopefully we can get this guy on the podcast. But as you know, I work at SiriusXM, and by the way, the guy's not Eddie Trunk. He's you know who he is. But so he's very well known. You've seen him on VH1, you've seen him on MTV. And when the discussion started to happen, I ran into this guy in the hallway, and I said, what do you think's going on with Guns N' Roses? Do you think it's really going to be a reunion? And he was like, dude, it's happening. He's like, I have sources that it is absolutely happening. And he gave me a little bit more, a few more details. But hearing it from this guy, and I'll be able to reveal to you, I'm sure, who it is, but I don't want to right now.
I get it. Yeah.
And I'd love to get him on.
It's a teaser for another episode.
Hearing it from someone so reliable, who's worked in the music industry for decades, who's so respected, and him telling me, don't say anything, but I'm positive it's happening. It was just like, wow, this is...
Because you didn't tell me that, and it's probably due to the same, like, you don't want to get out.
Really? I didn't tell you? Okay.
No, because the first I heard about it was when I saw an article on Blabbermouth. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it was said so casually, from an interview with Slash over, like, in the Netherlands or whatever, some weird country. And I was like, this was just so random.
Well, no, I think after that interview, because people were speculating after the interview, are they just friends? Are they getting back together?
Right.
And that's when I asked this guy. He was like, yep, they're doing it.
And then it was when Slash would avoid the questions, because for a while he actually would answer it, then he would just get annoyed. And this is like, okay, I just don't want to answer. I can't answer. And it was more like the no comment, as opposed to like, I don't want to talk about it aggressively, where he was just getting sick of it. And I mean, you can't blame him for that. And it's like the same thing with Axl. I didn't know, because the whole stigma around him was that he's a hothead, and I guess, yes, there are video clips of him jumping off and attacking fans and freaking out or whatever.
Kicking people out of shows if they have a Slash shirt on.
Yeah, get that guy,
yeah.
And it's like, oh, is there going to be, that's the joke now, and especially when we post Guns N' Roses articles on WBAB's Facebook, the thing is when's Axl going to get upset and storm off?
And I don't believe that'll happen.
I don't think
he's a changed person.
He's a changed person, and we don't know what the reasons for the
That's the thing. None of us know exactly what went on, and for the most part,
perception is not reality.
Yeah, and for the most part, Slash has never talked about it.
Even in his book, he never really badmouthed Axl.
Which I'd love to get the co-author Anthony Boza on. He's a great guy, and I know him. So yeah, in his book. But then Axl every now and again has had his rants, and I don't know if we want to play this one from New York City of him getting into Slash.
Truth is, they didn't want to be here for you at this level. They don't want to take it farther. I mean, that's their business, right? But not at my expense or yours. You've been played. You've been lied to. You've been used. You've been manipulated so that they can ride around in limos and jam with Snoop Dogg or whoever the fuck. I don't care, that's their business, but you shouldn't really do it at your expense. Or mine. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit more blunt. I mean, Slash may sound like the De La Hoya, but he's the fucking Vargas. That's just how it is. And just because you've got a bunch of guys agreeing doesn't mean shit. But the truth is that they're a bunch of bad cops, and I'm the fucking Serpico, and they can suck my dick.
I think I was at that show. Maybe I was completely stoned, why I don't remember it. But that's why I'm even now more shocked, and it feels like a dream until I go, because we're both going to, not together, to the Meadowlands, well, same thing, MetLife Stadium, July 23rd when they come to Jersey, of how much hate there was, mainly from Axl's side, where he called, remember when he called Slash a cancer?
Yeah.
You know, like, so what happened? Why Slash, who everybody seems to love, why does Axl hate him so much? And there was one rumor that got out there that I found really interesting, and it was brought up to Slash's attention. He's like, no. It was when Slash worked with Michael Jackson, and Axl was molested as a little kid, you know, when he was like 2 years old by his uncle, and he believed the allegations against Michael Jackson were true, and he did not like Slash working with him. I think it even went even further, saying that Slash wasn't even paid, that Michael Jackson just gave him a TV. He's like, you did this with this guy just for that? You know, so that was, when I heard that, I'm like, if that could be a reason. That could be a reason. I didn't
buy it. And then also I remember on, of course, my GNR forum. Shout out to my GNR forum.
They're a great hub.
There were people saying that the timeline didn't match.
Okay.
So I think the group may have been over at that point. There were some issues with the timeline. I can tell you this. Huge Michael Jackson fan.
Me too.
I don't think he did it, and there's a lot of evidence that he didn't do it. But that's a whole other podcast.
I also, just for the record, I'm with you. I just think he was a weird dude, and
very much so.
Thought would see kids and just like, I just want to be silly.
And I don't think there's other things. I mean, the two other things that we know of as fans is Axl owning the rights to the name Guns N' Roses.
See, I think that's
and
what rubs
rumor of him making the guys sign the names at a show.
But I think it was also on the Guns N' Roses Behind the Music, where it was Matt Sorum saying, you know, he wanted to get the rest of the guys to confront Axl, and when he went to do that, the rest of them wouldn't be behind his back anymore. So I mean, like, that was said, but what was that specific conversation? What was that debate? What was that argument about? We weren't there. We can only speculate.
And Axl claims that's not how it went.
You know what do they always say? There's three versions to the story: yours, mine, and the truth. I mean, that's how I look at it. So I just, not knowing these people, the only member of this umbrella that is Guns N' Roses that I've personally met is Bumblefoot, who's no longer in the band, and he was a great guy. That's all I can go on.
I've met Adler. He was awesome. But he wasn't a part of it.
I've heard nothing but good things about Adler.
So we have that, and then the other thing we have, of course, which, you know, all of us have read about, is that when Axl started bringing other musicians to play what would have been Slash's parts.
This is for Chinese Democracy? Or
where he had, I think it was, I get so mixed up with members, but Paul Huge, right? Wasn't he the guitarist that he started to bring him in as like a session musician, and he was recording, I think they were erasing Slash's parts on Pro Tools or whatever they had at the time, and having this guy play parts and Slash being really pissed off about that.
And I will say that as big of, you can correct me if I'm wrong, as big of fans as we clearly are, because we're starting a freaking Guns N' Roses podcast, I don't know everything.
No, neither do I.
All right, so I want to get, because we know a lot, but I'm not going to be like, oh, I have a PhD in Guns N' Roses.
No, there's people.
I have a PhD in GNR.
Yeah.
That I did not know that. I didn't know if Slash worked on anything Chinese Democracy. I thought once.
No, not Chinese Democracy. I think.
Or what would have been another album?
Yeah, I think this was like maybe post Spaghetti Incident. I don't know these, but I do know that there was another guy coming in. I think it was Paul Huge, who's really Paul Tobias, right? I think it's the same guy.
That sounds right.
And I'll double check all this so I don't sound like an idiot. But I think that's correct. You guys, who read this could correct me or listen could correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, he was, Axl was bringing in other guys, and the other band members were not happy about it.
Why would they be?
Yeah.
I mean, I get that, but I want to know why.
Yeah.
That's what I want to. I want to know why. What happened? To that. Because of course the original Guns N' Roses wasn't even Slash. I mean, it was Tracy Guns, it was Axl. It wasn't even Izzy, right?
No, it was Izzy.
Oh, was Izzy?
Izzy and Axl
there was another guy. They were schoolmates, right?
That's why some people were saying when the
it's not a reunion without. Oh, right.
Yeah, when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing happened, they were like, the real Guns N' Roses is really Axl and Izzy, and so they were like, the two guys are not here. These are the guys who started this.
Right. Right. So, I mean, it's not a real Guns N' Roses reunion without Teddy Zigzag.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just very interesting. I want to know what happened behind the scenes, and we may never know. Do we have a right to know? And I think that's what a lot of it's like. The Guns N' Roses camp, they owed us. But it's awkward. The same thing with Van Halen. Same thing with Kiss. You know, or like 'cause the name sells. And the same thing currently right now. We can get into this in a later podcast. Is I have a real big issue with Stone Temple Pilots continuing at least right now.
Yeah,
I understand that they, Scott hasn't been in with the band in a while. I understand that they want to look for a new lead singer after Chester. But I mean, Scott just died, dude. I mean, but as I think you were a fan of their other band, DeLeo's other band, right?
Talk show?
Right. That band is never going to sell.
No, yeah, they need to use the name. That's what so just getting back into
this. But it's the same thing with Guns N' Roses. Like that's what people are like. Why can't you change the name to Axl or War?
Yeah.
W.
It's a money issue. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So getting into the friction, I have the most ridiculous source.
Yeah, why do you have
that gets
that
into why
and that's
some of this friction. So here's what it is. Yeah. So obviously you guys can't see anything. I'm holding right now Behind the Paint by Violent J of Insane Clown Posse, which was, believe it or not, an excellent book. Now, why?
It's a big-ass book.
It is, and it's very well done. And because Violent J has had a very interesting career. You guys listening to this probably don't care, so I'm not going to expand upon that. But here's here's why you do care. ICP was starting to sell big records of their album, Riddle Box. The record label at the time, for the first time, was like, all right, we're going to give these guys a big budget. And they were able to bring in guest musicians. And Violent J apparently is a big Guns N' Roses fan. And he was like, I want Slash to play on our album. And this is really shortly after
I had no idea.
the breakup. Yes, so he played on a song called Halls of Illusions, and he wrote about it in the book. Now, he gets into the whole session and everything, but the reason I brought this in is because it gets into a little bit of the drama and the hatred these guys had for each other. And this is almost like, even though this is in our book, this is almost like a Brando and Scotto exclusive. Because there's very few people who've read this. That are GNR fans.
I know Slash because I know Slash's other collaborations. I know about the Neurotic Outsiders. I know a lot. I mean, this I never heard of.
This is going to interest you. I promise you. So that's why I brought it in.
Just to be interested.
So here we go. They're coming off of recording. Slash just records his guitar part for Halls of Illusions, and I'm not going to get into all that because that's not that interesting. Or it is to me, but you know what I mean. It doesn't relate to this podcast.
We're not juggalos.
So so just that's the setup, and it gets into this of Violent J talking. Suddenly, I realized I was sitting there hanging out with Leif Garrett, listening to his Michael Jackson jack-off stories, while Slash from Guns N' Roses was playing on my record. I felt pretty fucking good. I couldn't wait to hit up Kinko's that night and rate Joey all about it, Shaggy 2 Dope. Then Slash turned to me. I got a question, Joe. This song isn't about Axl, is it? What? No, why would you think that? Well, Use Your Illusion, Halls of Illusions. You guys are talking about people who beat their wife and kids. You sure this isn't about Axl? No, it's not, man, really. I realized then that Slash was a great guitar player, but he was completely out of his mind. Why the fuck would I write a song about Axl Rose? What? Slash explained, oh, well, it just seemed like it was about him. Shit, I wrote a whole fucking album about Axl Rose and he never even knew it. I just laughed. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I kept thinking, what album? Slash has a record out? Where? Is he singing on it or something? I was steadily realizing how stupid and out of the industry we really were. Then Slash unzipped this bag and pulled out a Riddle Box shirt. I wore your shirt last night on stage, he said. It's the shit. I love wearing this shirt. All I could think was, where were you on stage last night? Are you back in Guns N' Roses again? Then he started talking to me about how much he hated Axl Rose. Yeah, fuck that cocksucker. And that's him saying that. Yeah, well, Slash, bro, this song ain't got nothing to do with him, I said quickly. Slash wasn't going to let it go. He looked me right in the eye. You a fan of Axl, he asked? Oh, shit, man. I was stuck because I did like Axl. In fact, I'm a huge fan of the whole band. But fuck that. Axl ain't here hooking up our album, so fuck him. I'm down with Slash. In fact, I would have even helped Slash jump that fucker. I would help Slash jump that fucker Axl if he wanted me to. No, I'm a fan of the music of Guns N' Roses, I said. I've never met him or nothing. Yeah, well, he's a fucking ass. Well, yeah, well, he's a fucking asshole. And then they get into other stuff, and that's really it. But I mean, that goes into the hatred of and the paranoia. Is this song about Axl? Like,
you never got
isn't that crazy, right?
In an ICP biography, that's amazing because in all Slash's his biography and in his interviews, he always avoided it. He always would be kind of diplomatic about it.
Yeah,
so that is kind of interesting. How paranoid is that about Axl? Because even though when you announced the name of the song, I was like, that's got to be a Guns N' Roses reference.
Yeah,
unless he was kind of just wanted to like the words of it and like, oh, Slash is on this illusion.
I really don't think it was because I think that they wrote the songs, and then the record label was like, all right, we're gonna give you a budget for guest musicians. And they had Alice Cooper come in, they had Slash come in, and. But he's saying that Slash wrote a whole album about Axl and he didn't know? That's what he said to Violent J, and would that mean the first Slash's Snake Pit album?
Right.
Yeah, because I think that was actually looking at the timeline, and I think that was prior to this.
Okay.
So, yeah,
because it wouldn't have been like when it's the Slash that we know now when he's doing with Miles Kennedy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that.
No, yeah, because this is like we're talking 1997 about.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah.
I want to know. And even now, it's amazing where, when Motley Crue, just finished up their farewell, and the same thing with Black Sabbath, they're finishing up, they did press.
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses aren't doing that. And I was amazed that Axl, now in Axl DC, that he did press, a video for AC/DC's website, but he's talking, and they're just talking about even Brian Johnson.
But they're in charge.
Right, but even Axl doesn't seem uncomfortable. He's happy to talk or whatever. But nothing really has been said with Guns N' Roses. It's like a mystery. You got to pick up on these clues. It's like a video game. I remember you texting me like, "Hey, I'm in the Star Wars movie, and they just played something." That,
I wasn't there. I heard about it. Yeah,
I was stretching the truth, you son of a bitch. You could have just went with it.
I'm not a Star Wars fan.
Neither. I'm more a Spaceballs, but yeah, it's like the same thing. Or you took the picture of the Guns N' Roses thing in Times Square.
Yep.
And we're finding all these clues. Or you showed me that it was the slot machine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The slot machine that
and they
came
just showed
out
the three.
Just showed Axl, Slash, and Duff. So you were like, all right, is this what the reunion's going to be?
Right, because it wasn't official yet as to who was going to be on it. Other than I follow Frank Ferrara on Facebook.
Yeah,
but that's about it. I mean, it was an educated guess of who's going to be in it.
And the big thing that people are asking now is this: like, we've seen the shows that have happened so far. And there's not really that much interaction on stage between Axl and Slash. And then it makes people think, I know there's small moments here and there.
I think people are nitpicking, but was there really? I mean, there are small moments.
But there's people just wondering, like, are they friends? Is this for the money? Because this is going to be a huge payday. Most people would be willing to do anything for the payday that they're getting.
But they could have done this a million times over already. Or was the catalyst when not only did Bumblefoot quit, but when DJ Ashba quit, the new version of Guns.
But were they asked to quit? We don't know exactly. We've heard things.
I highly doubt that Bumblefoot was asked to quit because he seemed really unhappy. Yeah. Now, when I have interviewed him, he was fine. But just because there's a lot of interviews and he just wanted to do his own thing. He was never sure, when can I make my own album? When can I go on my own tour? When is Guns N' Roses going to pick up? I think the uncertainty of the band got to him. And with DJ Ashba, I think he really also wanted to do 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So he pieced. So I'm wondering, Axl's like, I don't have a band anymore.
He could easily get it. He could get anyone in the world.
I know he can
get
anyone, but it's just like he doesn't have a consistent. If you're going to recreate your band, then recreate it. Otherwise, you're Menudo. I don't want them to be a rock and roll Menudo.
Yeah, I think this was planned earlier. I do, because
there were steps in place to push them out.
You know what? Well, yeah, because what's one thing? I was looking on my Time Hop on the app where you can look back and what you posted on Facebook. Yeah. So basically, I think it was maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, to the day, 2 years ago, I saw Guns N' Roses play in Bethlehem, PA. That was their last show, I think, before they did that Ohio Rock on the Range, and then they did the Vegas shows, and that was it. So they haven't played shows in 2 years until now. I mean, I think 2 years, it's not a lot of time when you really think about it for these guys to get back together. And you also have to remember when they played that, what was the award show again? for Revolver.
Oh, the Golden Gods?
Golden Gods. They had Duff McKagan on bass, and they were playing several shows with Duff overseas. So I have a feeling that might have been in the works. All right, let's see how people react to Duff being on stage with us, and I think it's possible.
I don't know, just because the one consistent was Tommy Stinson. And if you're going to replace anybody, Stinson, I don't think was the guy. I think Stinson just didn't give a crap. I mean, especially since the replacements were also getting back together. He was like, yeah, man, whatever. He seemed like that kind of dude. But it was the guitarists that were, I guess more of... It's too weird. I think it's too conspiracy theory. Even though this whole band is a big conspiracy theory.
It is.
I just don't know if Axl finally said, shit, I don't have a band. Let me call Duff. What can we do with this? What's that first conversation like to get to this point? And especially when, I don't know about you, because obviously the first show was in Coachella, was at Coachella. No, it was in...
The first show was really
it was
the
at Troubadour.
Yeah.
It was at the Troubadour, California. That was the main point, what I'm trying to get to anyway. So since we're on the East Coast, and that show was scheduled to start at 11, and Guns N' Roses, their history, it wasn't going to be on until much later than that. I couldn't sleep that night. So following along with the show on Twitter, which is... Twitter sucks for a lot of reasons, but it's great for a lot of reasons, and that's one of them. And people are live streaming the show on Periscope, so I'm watching.
Which they're not supposed to be.
Of course not. I think they actually had people take away their phones.
Yeah.
You know who started that? Dave Chappelle. He actually, I think he invented this magnetic pocket where you can't, it shuts your phone off, takes off the surface out, and whatever. Dave Chappelle, of all people. He's going all. He's the Axl Rose of comedians. He goes crazy. He goes to Africa. But when they're playing Chinese Democracy, I'm like, what? What is that conversation like?
There's that, and then there's also who's this girl on stage?
Yes, I'm like, because when it was announced, Chris Pittman he responded to a tweet. That's why I had to put the thoughts and views expressed on Apple. You never know what could be picked up, even though it's a very minute response to a fan. Probably got Chris Pittman fired when he said, I'm not a fan of this money grab. You're gone. This Asian chick is in, who I think is the...
I think she's Asian.
I think she's Asian.
She's hot, but...
She is a beautiful woman.
And she is Brain, former member of Guns N' Roses' girlfriend.
Yes, or wife or
something
whatever.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, so he left, and then it's been Ferrara ever since. And he to me, I think he's awesome. I think he fits in. Yeah, I mean, he's taking pictures. He's like... This is my life right now. Even on the Axl DC tour, I'm like, I'm on stage with Axl Rose and Angus Young. Like, where's my life right now? I love people who seem to really appreciate where they are, And it just seemed like Axl was trying to reinvent his new Guns, where he lost the dreadlocks. He even lost when he tightened up the braids. Is he trying to get back to the new Guns? And what was the thought process of getting DJ Ashba to wear that little the Nightmare Before Christmas-esque hat?
I think that was him.
Yeah, but don't you realize, hey, Slash is known for the hat. You have a hat. People are still pissed. What are you doing, dude?
Oh, it's so funny. Have you ever seen that picture of, I think it's a girl who has the Guns N' Roses bullet tattoo on her back, and it's 2 tattoos of DJ Ashba next to it. It's like, why would you get that? No disrespect to DJ Ashba, but he's never even written a song with Guns N' Roses.
That's like getting a Gary Sharon tattoo. What are you doing?
I gotta find it now. As
it's so bad.
It's so funny, man.
And I like 6 a.m. I thought I was actually excited when they announced DJ Ashba was going to be the new guitarist when Robin Fink left. Or no, Bumblefoot replaced Fink. Was that see? It's 6 degrees Kevin Bacon. Bumblefoot left, and I think it is
Robin Fink, really.
Buckethead left, and I think that's when they got Bumblefoot, and I think it's when Fink left, and I think that's when they got Ashba.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the guy who's on the tour with them now, I'm totally drawing a blank. Not.
You're Richard Fortus.
Yeah, sorry.
If you're not Fortus,
sorry, Richard. Yeah, and he's like a badass guitar player. He's like a very Izzy-esque. He's showing me right now I have seen that tattoo. She has a typical Guns N' Roses, the 2 guns with the roses, old school logo, and has 3 DJ Ashba tattoos. 1 a portrait, and 2 of him with a guitar, and 1 of them holding a gun.
And it's blending into the Guns N' Roses, so it's not like these are 2 separate things.
She has a nice back, but I mean, just what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
I mean, get a 6 a.m. or a Beautiful Creatures tattoo instead.
Yeah.
Well, just whatever. Yeah. And I have my Use Your Illusion tattoo.
Nice.
I'm hoping to get nobody gives a shit, a back piece of Guns N' Roses at some point.
What about an Appetite for Distortion tattoo?
If this becomes anything, with our first paycheck. Yeah, well, never. We'll see what happens. But it's been a long, strange journey.
Yeah. What do you think, by the way, of Melissa Reese coming into the band? It's rubbing a lot of people a weird way.
I don't know why. I think it adds a really unique element, and I think it's cool, and I like seeing her on stage. I want to see more women rockers. I want to find out more about her. You know, other than just being the wife of a former drummer. I mean, former drummer as in Guns N' Roses, not just former forever. Yeah, wasn't he also in Primus?
Yes,
that was his thing.
And he's played with Buckethead, a lot.
Oh, you just saw Buckethead, right?
Yes.
How was that show?
It was great, but you know what's weird? He kind of pulled an Axl at one point.
What, he'd show up like 2 hours later?
No, I think he was not happy with how he doesn't talk, obviously. Yeah. So I think he wasn't.
A puppet. He talks through a puppet.
Yeah, I think he wasn't happy with how his guitar was sounding because he just kind of awkwardly took it off and he left the stage for like half an hour and then came back. It was really weird. I've never seen anything like that with Buckethead. But I mean, I'm a huge fan. But no,
I think it adds an interesting dynamic because. You know, it's like the same people who are unhappy with Van Halen right now. I understand there is no right now Van Halen, but when it was everybody except Michael Anthony, just take it for what it is. You know, obviously we want Alex, we want Michael Anthony, but David Lee Roth, Eddie Van Halen, that's what. I'm sorry, that's Van Halen.
I saw them; it was excellent. But
so did I. It was excellent. But for me, yeah, the same thing. I want Izzy in the band. You know, whether it's Storm or Adler, I can do with either. You know, even if Gilby was in the band, fine.
Well, what do you think of these people who, you know, they're minute. The people who are saying this isn't Guns N' Roses. I'm not going.
That's why I joke like it's not a Guns N' Roses reunion without a Tracy and Roberta. You know, it's not.
But I understand that people want to see because I think even you and I can. But even you and I can be honest. If you had your choice between this lineup and the Appetite for Destruction lineup. I can tell you I'm taking the Appetite for Destruction lineup. I would love to see.
I think that
I'd
goes
love to
without
see
saying.
Izzy.
I think that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But I think I'm very happy with this.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
You know, would I rather? Sure. Do I have any complaints about what they're doing now? Absolutely not. You know, for me, I saw the new version of Guns 3 times. I saw Velvet twice. So I've had a mini Guns N' Roses reunion in my brain. But it was always about, you know, my favorite song ever is November Rain. That means a lot to me. I was just seeing Slash and Axl, you know.
Are you going to cry? When you see it live? When you see Slash hop on that piano?
I'm just in awe.
As Axl plays?
It's just awe because it's just so much of watching the videos over the years. The welcome to the videos. And
I love that.
You know, and it's just, that's the face of so much of my childhood, of so much, you know, growing up with its ladder of high school and it's college, and that's when you're, you know, when I was still emo hating girls, and it's just like it was shaping my personality. Guns N' Roses helped shape my personality, and even though you mentioned before Chinese Democracy, it took me 3 times to fully digest it. I like the record, but Slash has that sound, man, and I love that dirty, bluesy, rocky sound, and the fact that he's doing it, and he's even doing these songs from Chinese Democracy that I like, and Eddie's own flavor to it makes me even that much more excited, you know, and. Just now, a little worried because Axl is screaming his head off with AC/DC.
Yeah, it does.
But he's on point, and I want to know, and that was always a concern, and we had this discussion. There was a point where I felt like I almost had to tap out, even though Axl sounded great the times I saw him. Plenty of video of him online where he sounds like Mickey Mouse. What happened? Yes, you know, welcome to Burger King. He's got all fat, you know, whatever.
All the memes is what you're talking about.
All the memes. But, you know, he lost weight. He's kind of like, you know, jacked right now.
Yeah.
But he's singing great. Was losing weight? Is he rejuvenated?
The thing with him too is he has always had on nights and off nights.
But he's been on every show, even with AC/DC every night. There's nothing where I'm like, I have the Axl goggles on where I'm like, you know, oh, it's okay. You know, everyone changes with age. You know, I understand David Lee Roth. That was the big complaint on the last Van Halen tour. I'm like, he was never Pavarotti.
Dude, the internet has made it that people just complain about everything.
Yeah.
It could be even if it was the Appetite lineup, people would still complain. And
it should have been years ago.
Yeah.
They're hacks. I mean, yeah, I know, but some of those things I like to still dissect and have an intelligent conversation about, as opposed to an argument.
Speaking of the Appetite lineup, and I know we don't want to go too long here. You know, I want everybody to be able to enjoy this first episode, but there's a couple other topics I'm thinking of here real quick. Is that So there's been talk that the reason Steven is not there is due to a back injury and that he was supposed to be there for the April 1st show. So we're still wondering, is there going to be a Steven Adler appearance? I would love it, but
that's what's interesting because Adler, the band, was supposed to have a show at the Troubadour, and the Troubadour tweeted out like just an X through it and said news coming soon. So you wouldn't make it that obvious. It's
news coming soon, and they put the picture of Steven's skull from the Appetite logo.
Which is, it just doesn't make any sense. And what doesn't make any sense is why or how Steven has always been the most vocal of the band, even though he hasn't been in the band in.
And I just want to make sure you're getting the story. It was because it was the whiskey he was playing at.
Oh, okay.
So this is the craziest thing that happened. I'm sorry because I just want to make sure.
Correct
He was playing.
I got the gist.
Yeah, no, you do. But here's what's crazy
I want to
about
get the facts right.
So he was playing the whiskey.
Right.
The whiskey tweeted out that it's canceled with the Steven Adler skull, and then they were like, "Big announcement coming soon." And do you realize the big announcement was a Guns N' Roses tribute band? So the night that Guns N' Roses played the Troubadour, there was a Guns N' Roses tribute band, and it happened playing the whiskey.
That's funny. That I did not know.
They're not even a good tribute band.
That's funny. No, there's actually a pretty one out here in the good one out here on the island. I think it's Appetite for Destruction.
Okay.
I think that's the name. They're actually pretty good. But yeah, so thank you for straightening out.
No, it's all good.
That's what I want.
I think it's just funny that a
that
tribute
is
band,
funny.
like,
but
how much would it suck to be at that show?
Why even go?
Yeah.
Just why even? It's like just bring around a red Solo cup and just drink the tears you've been flowing all night from the real band is playing just feet away. But I was going to say now how Steven Adler has been the most vocal of all the members, even though he has been not a member for the longest amount of time. It's like, dude, let go. You were on one album, whatever. I'm not saying I'm saying that, but that's the consensus on whatever. I don't want to say consensus. That's the blabbermouth trolls that say that. But you haven't heard a word from him. Not a single word since this reunion happened. That is weird to me.
I agree.
And when Izzy, I guess when he joined Twitter, because there are rumors that he was going to be in the album on the reunion, that he said, "At this time, I have no involvement." Why say "at this time"?
Yeah, that's the last thing I want to know. Why no Izzy? I know he's always had an aversion to touring, but come on.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe he's because, he was the one. I mean, I don't want to say he was the one. They all had issues with heroin and drugs, but he may be the most afraid. But he did plenty of shows with Axl. I mean, that's the biggest hurdle to climb, I'd like to think. But for him to not say, I have nothing to do with it, I'm not going to be involved, but he said, at this time, I have no involvement. So to me, that doesn't close any doors. Gilby Clarke says he's excited. He's happy they're together. Matt Sorum, he did respond to a fan online saying that he has no involvement. So, I mean, maybe these shows, maybe when Axl stops being, Larry Flint and gets out of the chair, maybe when they get going, maybe this is when this thing's going to happen. That's so weird too, man.
Yeah.
Oh, what a trip. We talk about going from when this band was in its heyday and when they were playing the VMAs, not the 2002 one, but when Nirvana was playing and Dave Grohl's on stage. Hey, Axl. That was when Vince Neil punched Izzy in the face.
Yeah.
That one. And then now, all these years later, Axl Rose is using Dave Grohl's throne that he used when he broke his foot. And they were showing Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins in the crowd at their first Vegas show.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. It's like I think it all comes down full circle to this, what Sammy Hagar said. And because, of course, him and Eddie traded, this is so stupid, it's like 14-year-old girls. They traded tweets. They wish each other a happy birthday via Twitter. Oh, is Van Hagar going to come back now? And he said, no. I mean, like, you never say never, but I'm seeing all these people die, Lemmy, Scott Weiland, David Bowie. I don't want to have any animosity when, I kick the bucket. I want all good vibes in my life.
There's a lot of bands getting back together with the news of the
Misfits. Oh, my God.
Because I think there's just such a market for these bands and rock and roll
and
right now.
I think just getting older, too, and maturing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's really far out of the element of saying why these bands are getting back together.
Yeah, and kind of going full circle with something we started the show with, rock and roll is kind of dead. And it's these bands who need to bring it back and get some excitement out there. And they could do these big arena tours, man.
I know. It's because it's not happening. I don't know. And it's depressing. Like, why? Because I know I mean, I have an eclectic. It's more towards rock, but you seem to have a more eclectic.
Oh, I'm all over the place. Yeah.
I don't want to totally damage you, but I think you do have at least one Bieber song on your iPod.
Yes, I did. Well, my iPod, I switch all around. I'm all over the place.
Whatever.
Dude.
I mean,
I'm no shame.
I mean,
there's no guilty pleasures for me. I like it all.
No, I like Boyz II Men. I like Kelly Clarkson. I mean, I have some weird things too, but I think it's just there's nothing now that's tangible. I mean, there's so many rock bands that sound the same. They can be good, very talented, but there's nothing that stands out above the rest. And even now with the hip hop game or rap or whatever, I couldn't have said that whiter, by the way.
The hip hop game.
The hip hop game.
Jesus, that's why I own a Heavy D cassette. That's my
nice.
That's my my OG. I'm pathetic, but there's nothing really standing out. And when you still say Guns N' Roses, even if you're in a sorority, Welcome to the Jungle.
Yes.
Paradise City. Sweet Child of Mine. Thunderstruck.
You're gonna have so many.
These iconic songs. Even if you don't know the Misfits, that friggin' skull.
Yeah. The
thanks, Avril Lavigne and Hot Topic.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see where that goes, and you know what? We'll see where this podcast goes.
Yeah.
But if you want to follow us, and we'd really appreciate it, and let us know what you think. We're on Twitter at the AFD Show. That's Appetite for Distortion at the AFD Show. On Facebook, facebook.com/The AFD Show. And if you want to email us, it's theafdshow@gmail.com. Simple enough. And this has flown by, man. I can't wait to just get into other topics with you about
it's going to be fun.
Our love of this band.
I was like, can we talk about in an hour? Are we going to lose steam? No.
No, not at all. I can go another hour, another 2 hours.
Chill stamina.
Yeah.
Chill.
All right, so hopefully we'll see you back in maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. Who knows?
It's like Chinese democracy. You never know. It's gonna happen. When? Soon.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Brando and Scotto, dissecting all things Guns N' Roses on Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at the AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/the AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.